Hello and welcome back to Motors for the Masses, and I'm again at MOONRAKER Motorcycles in Norwich today, and I'm going to ask you a question. Are you considering the new Benelli 702X, or are you thinking about the cheaper alternative, the 502X? Well, we're going to have a look at both today, so let's roll the intro and get cracking. Now, of course, there are differences besides the fact that that's got a bigger engine than that one, but there are other differences, and we'll talk about the looks a little while later, specifically how this one looks physically bigger than that one. But we'll come on to that in a minute. First of all, let's talk about the specs. The 702, apparently based on the Kawasaki Versys, uses a 698cc double overhead cam parallel twin engine, whereas the 502 uses a 500cc double overhead cam parallel twin engine. The 702 develops 75 horsepower and 51.5 pounds-foot of torque. The 502 develops 48 horsepower and 33 pounds-foot of torque. And both have a top speed of around 100 miles an hour. This one just over, this one just under. Both bikes use 50mm upside down forks on the front, and both bikes use a rear monoshock. However, the 702 uses this big chunky cast rear swing arm, whereas the 502 uses this double trellis affair. Still alloy, but a different design. Both bikes use twin 320mm front discs with double piston calipers either side. And both bikes use a 260mm rear disc with a single piston caliper. Both bikes use a 20-litre fuel tank. However, the 702 has a 4-litre reserve, whereas the 502 has a 3-litre reserve. The 702 is 235 kilos wet, whereas the 502 is just 5 kilos lighter. And the 702 actually has a 5mm lower seat height at 835mm, and I shall show you what they both look like side on in a minute. Both bikes have 19-inch front wheels and 17-inch rear wheels. Both bikes have a 110 front tyre and a 150 rear. However, the 502 uses Metzeler Torrance tyres, whereas the 702 uses Pirelli Scorpion Rally tyres. And both bikes use the stainless steel exhaust system. So what do they like to get on? Well, I'm 5'10.5" with a 31.5-inch inside leg on the 702 first. Nice and comfy. Okay. Now, with my leg up, it's nicely tucked in the tank there. I've got nothing digging in my sides. The seat feels, I don't want to say solid, but the ridge here, I can feel digging in me. But that's only when my legs are down. When my feet are up, you don't feel it at all. That's actually a very nice, comfortable seat. It feels smaller than you'd think, to be honest. I've got a good reach on the handlebars, and I am very comfortable on it. A nice forgiving suspension, and if I'll jump straight off that and straight on the 502, let's see what the difference is. Now this is definitely taller. You can see my feet are not flat on the floor here at all. It's definitely taller, quite a bit taller. Now it's only supposed to be 5mm, but that feels a bit bigger than 5mm to me, unless the seat's been adjusted. But here again, I mean, my knees are nicely tucked in the tank here because it's a very different shape, and I'll show you from the top down in a minute so you can see quite a different shape. That one looks smaller when you're on it and looks smaller physically. This one looks bigger physically and feels bigger when you're on it, but it's not. It's the 200cc less engine, but it's still very comfortable. Now I am flat-footed here with a slight move, so flat-footed, 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 and I'm tilting now. So, okay, interesting. Okay, what about on and off the center stand? So, side stand, They both come with a centre stand, so let's see. Nice and simple. Nice and simple. And that one, I'll be honest, felt a bit easier to get on the centre stand. Now, while it's on the centre stand, I'm going to try and get on the rear and see what it's like on the rear. So first of all, on the normal seat, and then when I sit back, and that feels nice and comfy actually, very comfortable indeed, and I've got a good amount of seat for my posterior. Now if I was to do the same on the 702, clambering on feels easier because the seat does feel lower, quite a bit to be fair. And then moving back, you can definitely feel that the seat is smaller here. It's not covering my bum, and it is a bit harder than the 502. That's a nicer seat to sit on, the 502, than the 702. Now I'm going to show you from the top down so you can see quite a bit of difference in the layout and the feel of the bike from the 702 and the 502, and the differences you get on the dash and the handlebar arrangements. Right, interesting. Now starting with the 702, you've got the nice TRK grips on here, a very light clutch, unbelievably light. Nice switch gears here with the typical enter and select you find on a lot of bikes these days. You've got your lights and flash on here, indicators and horn, and your headlights to main beam and dip on there. Now when you turn it on, you've got this lovely screen with the Benelli logo. Really clear, really easy to see. I like that. Rev counter around here, speedo there, trip and your mileage down the bottom, and then your gear indicator at the top here, and all your necessary lights on the top row here. Nice and simple, nice and neat. On this side, you've got your kill switch, your start button and your hazard flashes, and that's about all you get. What you also get here is a USB port. You've got the standard USB and a USB-C. So the 502 is quite different. Even though you've got the same TRK grips on here, the clutch is not quite as light as the 702, I would say. You've got your lights on this side, and then on this side, usual, your hazard flashes, your start button and your kill switch. The dash, as you can see, is very, very different. So if I turn it on, it's analog and digital. Speedo in the middle there, rev counter around here, and your lights along the top. Very different layout, of course, and your USB is just a normal USB on here. So let's talk about styling. Well, I think where this has sort of an angry wasp look, this one sort of reminds me of the goggles you find on a motocross rider. So goggles versus angry wasp, I would say. Other than that, I think this is much more significant in size looking than this one is. From the front, you've got all this gubbins going on here and all this massive arrangement, and then it's more streamlined on the 702. Some people like that, some people don't. I, personally, like them both. This one I would say is more of a sports adventure, and this one's a touring adventure. Let's go with that. Anyway, let's get round to the sides. So now it's at the side, you can see what I mean by this goggle look. No? Is it just me? You might also notice that there's a ring on here, and that's because when they first designed this bike, it was going to have all the cameras and everything on it, but then it would be really expensive. It was going to have all the crash bars and everything else, and the camera system front and rear, but then you're talking a 10, 11 grand bike. And they thought no, because Benelli is still establishing itself, so they brought out the 702 with less stuff, additional extras if you want them, and then this is what they're going to use when they eventually bring out the 800, which will have the camera system, front, rear, and all the crash bars and everything already included in that bike. You do get bash plates on both, under there, and and they are metalized, so that's a good thing, I think. You can see what I mean by the look and feel of the bike. This one definitely feels smaller than that one. Other than that, there's not a lot of difference. This one, you've got the crash bars on. This one is an optional extra to have the crash bars. However, and I'll talk about price at the end, luggage racks on here. The new ones, at the moment, come with the 3 luggage packs. So you've got the top box and the 2 side boxes, and the same on the 502. So, again, I'll talk about those in a moment, but for now, let's have a listen to them and see if there's a difference in how they sound. So first off, we'll start with the 502. I'll start it up. Quite a nice deep throaty rumble. Quite nice, I like that. Give it a little bit of a rev. It's a nice sound, that. Now the 702. I'm going to come around the other side just to make it fair. Still a deep rumble, but you can feel it's got that deeper, louder, bigger engine feel to it. Just give it a bit of a rev. Got a much raspier feel to it, a much angrier sound to it. That sounds nice. I'm going to do that one again. Sounds much nicer. That sounds good, but not as good as that. So, looks-wise, as I say, this one I think has got a more of a sportier feel to it, especially from here backwards. And this one's got the touring influence all the way through. Let me know in the comment section below which one you prefer. And there is one big difference around the back as well. And let me take you around the back and have a look. The 502 has the Marmite rear wheel hugger. The 702 doesn't. Which do you prefer? So let's have a look at the lights you've got. I'll start it up because then it'll have its full lights on. Same with this one. Hope you can still hear me. If you want to, of course. So let's see what we've got here. Now this one thing that bugs me about this bike. You've got one light. I hate that. Main beam, you've got both. But dip, you've got one. Why do they do that? On here, just got main beam, dip, main beam, dip. Indicators, I'll put the hazard flashes on. LED. Let's have a look around the back. So there is the 502, and there's your brake light. And there's your 702 and the brake light. Now, the 702X is £6,899 plus on the road costs, whereas the 502X is £900 cheaper. However, I'm now going to put up along the bottom here how much you can get this for and this for with all the luggage on. And I think you'll be surprised at what a bargain you can get at the moment. Now, I don't know how long that deal's going to last for, so you might want to grab one as quick as you possibly can. Now, if you are interested, the links will be in the description below. Now, I have split this video this week into 2 parts, and this is the end of part 1. And the reason for that is because it keeps raining, not raining, raining, not raining. And this has only done very, very little miles, and they don't want it out in the wet, getting dirty and muddy and etc. This one is a permanent demo, so they don't really care about it. Whereas this one isn't. It's a used bike with very, 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 very low miles and still very, very new. So I'm only taking it out in the dry. So I'll be back in a couple of days with part 2, where I shall be riding this and riding that and see what the differences are between them. So please stay tuned for that video. And that's all I've got for this one. So thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe and all that gubbins, and click the notification bell also. If you've got any questions, please leave in the comment section below. If you're interested already, then have a look in the links in the description below also. And until next time, please ride and drive carefully, but have fun. Bye bye.